FM. Welcome, everybody. It is Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. And you know what that means? It means it's time to get nerdy. Welcome to episode 176 of Two Nerds in a Pod, the nerdiest gaming podcast in the multiverse. I am Maction, and I have my fellow nerd and connoisseur of comedy, not the first option, not only the first option, but the best option, Mr. Lom Galuka, also known as Mr. Nice Guy 425. And of course, a special thanks to our returning sponsor, Game Insider Magazine, here with us on the show. So welcome, Mr. Nice Guy, episode 176 rather. Transposition error.
Yeah.
I mean, who would have thought? Not me. You know, look at us.
Who would have thought 175 episodes that one day we'd be saying this is episode 176. Mac, I'm good, man. I know you were asking how I was, and life is good. I got to tell y'all. So comedy's starting to make a comeback, right? COVID vaccine is out there. Live shows are starting to happen again. My agent sent me an opportunity to do a show here in good old Illinois. It is a private gig, and it's a type of gig I've never done before. It's at a country club, and it's not a bachelor party. It's the opposite of that.
Wait, are you the entertainment for a bachelorette party?
I am the entertainment for a bachelorette party.
Hands off, ladies. He's already taken.
It's one of those things where it's like, did y'all watch the video? Because, like, yes, my comedy is like very, very tame, but I also feel like it's kind of niche. Talk about video games. I talk about different things. I don't know why a group of women would want me to be the entertainment for their last hurrah, like as a comedian, right? So I've been lifting weights, and I promise I will be. No, I'm just kidding. It's funny. I actually told my wife, I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm certain that they know I'm just going to tell jokes. And she was like, well, it's probably just like some ladies in their 30s and 40s who legitimately want to laugh, you know, and have a good time. So I may bring her with me, and we'll see how it goes.
Oh, man, that's fantastic. I am so excited. How far out are we from the event?
It is going to be February 20th, but once again, it is a private thing. So
sure.
So it's literally just for these
yeah, we are not going to be able to see Mr. Nice Guy with his tearaway pants, as Punicorn does mention live in the chat here, but we will be interested in the blow-by-blow after-battle report that Mr. Nice Guy will no doubt be bringing to us.
You'll get a full report. And yes, Mets Girl, I do know what that means. And no, Ish Mobile, I don't know if there will be a giant cake, but if there is, I will eat my way out of it. Mac, what's it?
I was gonna say you should Kool-Aid your way through it. Oh yeah,
hey, Kool-Aid, and then I'll just like truffle shuffle with the dad bod. You know what I mean?
Oh,
no, I've been eating good.
That is everything I could have hoped for and more.
Eating healthy. Yeah. But Mac, what's new with you, man? Enough about me.
I wish there was all that much new. I've been working on some writing that's been very fun. I've had the opportunity to play a bunch of TTRPGs out of their usual time frames. So
nice.
I really feel like I've gotten a lot of doses of friend power lately, you know?
Dude,
and I'm just
jazzed,
really. Lots of really cool and fun people to spend time with. It's quite terrific. But
shout out to Kane giving out some gifted subs. Appreciate you, Kane. Giving out a couple. Love it.
Thank you.
Well, dude, friend power is the best power. It's kind of like you remember Captain Planet, right?
Oh yeah.
Like alone we're awesome, but together,
true.
You know, not just me and you, but together, like as a group of friends, we're so much better.
Yeah.
And we can stop pollution, I think, is the moral of that.
Absolutely. We bring pollution down to a,
zero.
The appropriate level.
To zero.
Well, I mean, depending upon how narrowly we define the term pollution, like what actually constitutes a pollutant. I mean, if we're just talking like CO2, I mean, we need some of that for plants to photosynth, is all I'm saying. If we don't,
right, but the theme song, didn't it say Captain Planet,
Mhm.
he's a hero, gonna take pollution down to zero.
Yes,
So that's
I
why
am
I
at
said
least
0.
somewhat aware that I shouldn't be expecting scientific accuracy from cartoon show theme songs from the 90s. Yes,
Right.
but, you know, if I can't be pedantic about that, what can I?
Yeah, who knows? Well, enough Captain Planet and enough talking about me being the entertainment at bachelorette parties. Mac, I say we do what we do best and we hop right into that gaming news. What do you think?
Let's do it. What interesting things have happened this week in the gamosphere?
Dude, so much. And our boy Galvatron isn't here, but he sent us a news story over Twitter, and I want to start out with that. He should have been on time.
Mm,
It's his own fault for not being here while we share this news story. By the
mhm.
way, ladies and gentlemen, this is episode number 176 of Two Nerds in a Pod, nerdiest video game podcast in the galaxy. Thanks for being here. This is on GameSpot.com. Like I said, sent to us by Galvatron by Eddie Macick, written February 4th. The title, Ori dev says he screwed up after ripping into snake oil salesman in the gaming industry. This is an interesting article. I'm going to skip down to the middle. Game developer Thomas Mahler from Ori developer Moon Studios had published an impassioned forum post where he rips into quote unquote snake oil salesmen in the video game industry who he says have a history of overpromising and under delivering. He wrote this on Reset Era. And here's some of the stuff he said in reference to Peter Malia, who made Fable. Quote, he was the master of, instead of telling you what my product is, let me just go wild with what I think it could be and get you all excited. And that was fine until you actually put your money down and the game was nothing like what Peter was hyping it up to be, Mahler said. He pulled this profanity for a good decade or more, with journalists and gamers loving listening to Uncle Peter and the amazing things he's doing for the industry. It took him to release some pretty darn shoddy games, it says, for press and games to finally not listen to his lies anymore. He also calls out the No Man's Sky developer Sean Murray and a few others. Mac, and then after all this happened, right? You know, he called these people snake oil salesmen. He crapped all over their games on this forum post. It went, viral, quote unquote viral. And then he apologized. He says, I screwed up yesterday. Here's my thoughts. And he gives a big apology. Can we not be critical anymore? That's my question for you. Like, I mean, No Man's Sky was bad when it came out.
Well,
What do you think?
well, I have to say, I think that's a little bit catastrophic to to ask the question that can we not be critical of other things anymore? And to be fair to some of the people that were being called snake oil salesman, I think especially the No Man's Sky, while it was a bad launch, wasn't No Man's Sky like just one dude?
No, it wasn't.
Oh,
But
okay.
he was very much like the face of
Okay.
the company. And just to give you like a quick refresher, so No Man's Sky released, it was very, very bad. It
Mhm.
promised that you could go to like infinite number of planets and that you could
Yeah.
run into other players. Didn't happen. And then after that, they disappeared and did not communicate with the community
Hmm.
for a long time.
Gotcha. Well, I think in general, I like the general way that he was going, right? That we have a history in video games of people overpromising and under-delivering. CD Projekt Red comes to mind, but we've discussed about how, yeah, that whole thing. Um, and I don't think it's wrong to call people out for having done that. Or in the case of Molyneux, having done it perhaps more than once. For my part, my first interaction with Molyneux was definitely the release of Fable, which I actually really enjoyed Fable. And a part of why I enjoyed Fable was because I didn't know about all the promises that were made in the game development process that didn't wind up getting delivered on. I came in with just oh, hey, cool, this is fantasy-ish game. It's got some choices. There's a good and bad system. You can gain weight, you can lose weight. There's some interesting mechanics, and that's as far as I took it. It wasn't until well after I had completed the game and felt like, oh yeah, that was a fun experience, that I looked back and read what the promises were with respect to it, and then was like, wow, that's nothing like what the game that was delivered.
Yeah, no, I feel you. We got some good comments in the chat. We're gonna read a couple of them. It kind of makes me think about one of my favorite, or well, a movie that I like a lot, which is Ender's Game, Mac.
Okay.
I like Ender's Game as a movie,
Hmm.
but here's the thing: my wife and I just happened to go see Ender's Game, and then like right after we watched the movie, we walked up the street to a local bookstore, and I bought the book, and I was like, oh, the book is way better than the movie, right?
Hmm.
And it makes me think, what if I would have done it opposite? If I would have read the book first and been like, oh, this book, it has all kinds of cool stuff. These kids are into politics and they're doing different things in outer space as well. And then I saw the movie and I'm like, none of that was in the movie. How did they not include these important parts? I would have been disappointed. So it's all about perspective. It almost makes me wonder if some of these developers are not guilty of being snake oil salesmen, but they're guilty of the time that we live in, where hype is more important than actual substance.
Oh, man, that is sadly way more true than I think many of us would like to admit, and especially true in most triple A endeavors.
Yeah, like if you look at GameStop stock right now, or Tesla stock a year ago, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, like the fundamentals, and we're not giving financial advice, but the fundamentals of why those stocks have gone so high have nothing to do with how profitable the companies are. It
Mm-hmm.
had to do with the hype train. And one last example before we spend our whole news segment on this news story. There was a there was an Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 game called Brink several years ago, and it got hyped so much. And I had to Google the name of the game before the show just to remember it. But I was so excited for this game, I ended up not buying it day one, and it was one of the biggest flops for a game that had so much money put into it. So once again, hype doesn't necessarily equal a good game.
True. I
It's
just
just where we're at.
want to mention one thing. Kane says Molyneux abandoned his own Kickstarter game on the subject of Peter Molyneux. And was that God Us or something like that? God Us?
Yeah, he said that earlier, I think it was Goddess, which I had never heard of until he said that in the chat.
Yeah, yeah. I had heard about it, and it was definitely one of those that was promising huge stuff. But I did not realize that he had abandoned that Kickstarter game. Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Galvatron says, "Oh, go ahead, Mac."
no, go for it. I was going to say, what comments did you want to read?
Yeah, just a couple. We can't read all of them. Galvatron says, as previously stated, I cannot think of many enthusiast industries that routinely lie to its customers and overhype their products as much as the gaming industry does. I think he may have a point there. What else do we got as far as comments? Ralph says No Man's Sky was a decent video game, just not as it was hyped up. See, and that's the thing. If you promise people infinite worlds and then there's not infinite worlds and you can't really run into other players like you promised, or at least you can't tell that you are, that's a big promise. Kane says I have strong feelings about Peter Molyneux. How do you pronounce his last name?
Molyneux? At least I'm
Molyneux.
pretty sure that's how it's supposed to be said.
I think you're
It's
right.
probably got the French silent X.
Yeah, it probably does. Cool. Well, let's move on to our next news story. So much cool stuff this week, Mac. Let's talk about Ubisoft, our good friends, right?
Oh yeah.
I love Ubisoft. I love Splinter Cell. I want another Splinter Cell game, and I'm starting to wonder if we're going to get one. This is from
Francois,
GameRant.com.
this goes out to you, man.
Francois, the dude from E3 who hooked us up with those dope T-shirts and a private viewing of a Splinter Cell game that was new at the time. This is by Nicholas Pace. It says Ubisoft is likely going to be putting less emphasis on AAA game experiences going forward. In a recent earnings call, Ubisoft describes that these types of games will not be the main focus of its business model in the future. The AAA moniker may be somewhat informal, but it is a label that describes many of the major experiences available today. Games by well-known publishers like Activision or Nintendo tend to fall into this category. However, it typically includes video games with higher development and marketing budgets. Genre matters little, and Ubisoft has been teasing more AAA games for 2021. So, Mac, to summarize, Ubisoft has kind of said that they are going to start doing more free-to-play stuff. With probably, I would assume, microtransactions, skins, maybe some DLC that's paid. So we're talking like Fortnite, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that type of thing. What do you think about this from a major studio saying we're not going to put down tons of money on these games anymore? We're going to make them free, and then we're going to profit after the fact.
I mean, it is well noted that you can get a lot of money on games via in-app purchases, microtransactions, if you will. It's also well known that the majority of your income from microtransactions come from just a few people. The whales, they call them. There be whales here, Captain. But I think at the end of the day, I would much rather feel like I was giving the developers, in a roundabout way, of course, the money from their work rather than, by just buying the game, rather than by buying a cosmetic thing,
I agree 100%, and I also think, Galvatron brings up an interesting point. He says Ubisoft won't do a new Splinter Cell because they know it won't sell. Blacklist flopped. Also, Splinter Cell does not follow the cut and paste, climb towers, and useless side quest formula of most UB games.
Well,
Ishmael says he would love a new Splinter Cell, and so would I.
if by cut and paste climb towers you mean the towers in Breath of the Wild, I'm just saying, I quite enjoyed that.
That's a really
Call it
good
crazy.
point. That's a really good point. Well, I want to know what Galvatron has to say in response to that. He's obviously referencing Assassin's Creed, but you bring up a good
Oh.
counterpoint that Breath of the Wild had those types of towers
Yeah.
as well. So I don't know, man. I don't like the idea of a big developer going this route because I think that people actually do want to pay for games. Like you said, like if people see a game and they're interested in it, even if sometimes it's overhyped, like in our last news story, they want to spend their gaming dollars on that. Like there's a certain amount of joy that comes from buying a new game, right?
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to just downloading a Valorant or a Fortnite, And I also think that people are more obligated to play a game for longer if they paid for it. If I get a game for free and I'm not immediately into it, I'm done. So I don't know. We will see what happens with that. Ubisoft, give us another Splinter Cell. That's the moral of that story. Mac, we've done 2 news stories, and I feel like we are probably. Let me check where we're at.
Oh no, go
We
for
got
it.
time. We got time for one more. Which one should our last one be?
You know what? I can tell you we're going to be a little light on some of the farther end, so we can do 2 more. You can pick one, or we can do 2 more. We'll be good with either way.
Okay, let's talk about GoldenEye 007. I can't remember. Did we talk about this last week at all on the pod? I don't think we did during news.
I don't think so.
Because there's been more info that it seems has come out about this
Sweet.
story. This is on IGN.com by Rebecca Valentine. More details have come to light about the nearly released GoldenEye 007 remaster following a leak of the game's files online, including the fact that Nintendo canceled the project when it was nearly done. Former developers on the remaster, Ross Burry and Mark Edmonds, spoke with Ars Technica about its development, saying that it had started in the late 2006 or early 2007, but didn't initially have approval from higher-ups. It was planned as an Xbox 360 release and was intended to be a very straightforward remaster for the console with little in the way of new content beyond some dramatic visual upgrades. So, Mac, we're not going to read the whole thing, but this goes back to a story that we talked about last week where Nintendo canceled was it a Legend of Zelda Netflix show that was going to come out because some of the information leaked, and they also canceled a Star Fox claymation show that was going to be on Netflix.
Yep.
This 007 remaster leaked online this week. If you have an emulator for Xbox 360, apparently you can download it and play it. Now we're finding out it was almost released, but there were just 90 bugs that needed to be worked out. Is Nintendo are they perfectionists? Or why do they keep canceling stuff that would have been awesome? I don't know, man. Like, why? Why?
Oh, man, I wish I knew. On the one hand, I've repeated the refrain, that Nintendo is perfectionists and that they will settle for nothing but the best. I don't know if that's necessarily accurate, but I can see where people would get the idea when you see a lot of things like this.
Punicorn says, you opened your Christmas present too early and now I'm returning it. That seems to be exactly Nintendo's mentality. It's like you find out about something before they get the opportunity to announce it, and then it gets canceled like those TV shows. Ishmobile says GoldenEye Remastered looks cool. Looks like licensing killed it. And he heard that there were too many licensing layers to make it happen. Now, I think that may have been an issue, but I think in this case, they were pretty close to getting it done. Phil Spencer did say within the past couple weeks that they've tried to do GoldenEye stuff over and over again, but there are a lot of licensing issues, right?
Mm.
Pierce Brosnan was playing Bond at the time. He does not want to be associated with the franchise. Um, in fact, when they made GoldenEye Reloaded for the Wii, it was actually Daniel Craig that was in it, which is not faithful to GoldenEye, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
obviously Pierce Brosnan. So I want another GoldenEye game. I would love to see that happen, but I doubt we will ever see it again. It's unfortunate. Mac, anything else you want to say about news or this story or anything else?
GoldenEye, all I have to say about this is Golden Guns only, no odd job.
Those are the rules. And that has been our news for the week.
All right, well, now that we've looked at what's going on right now, let's take a look into the past with a little thing that we call video game history. I'm going to highlight just a few things that are either pertinent or special to myself or Mr. Nice Guy or maybe gaming writ large. Let's talk about, in 2010, the release of BioShock 2 for the PC, the PS3, and the Xbox 360. Question.
Yeah.
Better than the original, better than the first, or not?
So it's weird. I played some BioShock 2, but I never played the original.
Oh.
So I'm really not well versed in BioShock, but I know that the second one is supposedly a masterpiece. I wish I would have finished it.
No, I've definitely, I have had the pleasure of playing both the first BioShock and the second. I haven't played anything past that, so no Infinite for me, but at least not yet. But 1 and 2 very much followed what I like to call the Knights of the Old Republic problem, where the first one is more enjoyable from a storyline perspective, but the second one comes with the better and improved mechanics, as well as with the types of improvements that just make it sing. For example, those of you who haven't played it, what are you doing? But also, there is basically a hunter coming after you. You're a big daddy in that one, and there's a big sister coming for you, and she's faster than you are, stronger. It's wild, and the excellent ways of playing with fear and lighting and angles, and it's not like the old Resident Evils where they could pull off a lot of jump scares via forced perspective and such inside of that game. No, this one, you're first person view, you're in total control, but their excellent work of using the environment and the periphery, just perfect. Chef's kiss. It was really, really good. BioShock 2, don't play it alone with the lights off. Sure, play it alone. Maybe play it with the lights off, but not both at the same time. It'll get you. But BioShock 2, well worth playing. Released this week in 2010. Let's step a few years farther back. In 2001, Paper Mario released for the Nintendo 64. Originally, this game was supposed to be Super Mario RPG 2, but they made some changes along the way. Square Enix had made the original Super Mario RPG 2, and they weren't up for making the sequel. So they went with a different team, changed a few things up, and made it to be Paper Mario. And Paper Mario is pretty darn good.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh yeah, Mr. Nice Guy, as you know, I've only recently gotten onto the Nintendo 64 train in the past several years. Anything you would like to say about Paper Mario?
You know what? Nintendo really does a good job of using dimensions to make games more immersive, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And so, like, many of the Paper Mario games, or at least a couple of them, give you the ability to, like, go from paper to, like, kind of like 2.5 dimensions, and then to, like, use that to solve puzzles. So it's not just like a Mario run and jump, hey, let's save the princess type of thing. It's a, hey, think about how you can get through this part. Use your brain and use the world around you, and it's just like it's just a unique gaming experience. I can't think of anywhere else that you're getting that other than Paper Mario.
Well said, sir. So get out there, play Paper Mario, y'all. Especially those of you with the Nintendo 64. Last, but most certainly not least, in 1996, we saw the release of the game Radical Dreamers, released by Square
Ooh.
for the broadcast Satellaview. And for those of you who don't remember the broadcast Satellaview, very understandable. It was a Japan-only release. It was basically the beginning of streaming-only video games. We've talked about this at great length in episodes 100 and episodes 133. So if you want to know more about the broadcast Satellaview, go back and listen to episode 100 and 133 for more information. But Radical Dreamers was a sequel to Chrono Trigger, which had been released in 1995, if I recall properly, for the Super Nintendo.
Dude, I didn't know that. It was a sequel?
Yeah, it's a sequel. And interestingly enough, what they do in the mainline sequel of Chrono Cross, which was released for the PlayStation some few years later, they actually take the same ideas and put them in. I'm going to just read a little bit of the synopsis of it. Now, Radical Dreamers itself was a text-based adventure game that had basically backgrounds, and it would change and move. So you kind of had some visual. It wasn't just solid text the whole time. You had some other stuff to go with it. But let's see. Blah, blah, blah. The story. All right. Radical Dreamers focuses on 3 protagonists, Surge, Kid, and Magil. And Surge and Kid, you may remember, they reused them in the game Chrono Cross, which was later done by, the same group of people. A little bit different. Surge is a drifting musician. Kid is a professional thief with a reputation for boisterous behavior. So if you've played Chrono Cross, you know how they basically just lifted Kid and put him right in there. I'm not going to go into too much more about Radical Dreamers, but even within that, the game itself winds up featuring in Chrono Cross when you get the background of the world and what's going on and such. When you get these backstory or lore dumps, if you prefer, they're actually pulling from Radical Dreamers itself. So anyway, it's a good game. The broadcast Satellaview did not see that many games, but this was certainly one of them, and it paved the way, at least serving as a rough draft for what would become Chrono Cross on the original PlayStation, a game which I quite love. So it's always fun to find these little, the seeds of the ideas of games that you really appreciate. So I don't want to take too much more time, but I'll just leave it there by saying that's been some video game history.
Awesome. Well, let's move on to our topic of the week, where we talk about something relevant in gaming and give our opinions on it. Mac, this one is a little bit troubling. Not terribly troubling, but just kind of strange. This is on GameInformer.com, written by Liana Rupert. It's about CD Projekt Red, and it fits in with what we were talking about earlier today. The premise of game developers being snake oil salesmen. Hyping up games that maybe don't deserve the hype and then not delivering. It says CD Projekt Red has shared a threat the studio has received regarding a ransomware attack threatening to release Cyberpunk 2077 source code in its entirety. In a recent post, CD Projekt Red shared details of an alleged hacker that is threatening, it should say, to release important data of the game should the hacker's demands not be met. The Polish studio took to Twitter to share a note sent by the hacker in question, claiming that they not only have the source code for Cyberpunk 2077, but also Gwent and The Witcher 3 as well. Regarding the Witcher series, the note alleges that it has an unreleased version of the game alongside incriminating data, such as HR documentation, to release to the public. Obviously, CD Projekt Red tweeted it out, and then they said, quote, "We will not give in to the demands nor negotiate with the actor, being aware that this may eventually lead to the release of the compromised data," warns CD Projekt Red. "We are taking necessary steps to mitigate the consequence of such a release, in particular by approaching any parties that may be affected due to the breach." So, Mac, here's my question for you and for people in the chat like Ish Mobile and Galvatron and people who know more about computers than me. what exactly is the source code, and how could releasing that hurt them? Because my understanding is that modding is already allowed, right? So the source code is already out there, or am I wrong about
As far as I'm aware, that doesn't necessarily mean that the source code is out there. And I am far from a computer programmer, just a computer enthusiast. But as I understand, source code is basically is the DNA of the game.
that?
And
Okay.
when you have a game for a specific platform, usually you have to compile the source code in such a way that it is functional, one, on whatever platform you're putting it, but also um, packaged in a way like the game that you get is packaged and the files are obscured. Things are put together in packages so that you can't just like, or at least ideally, you shouldn't be able to just be like, hey, you know what? I really like the pixel art in this game. Maybe I can just go to the folder labeled art and grab the pixel art that I want. And the data, the assets, the sounds, and everything. Often that winds up being buried into the game in such a way that you can't easily extract those sorts of things.
Okay.
Although
I guess we're go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, although beyond that, I don't really know enough about computer programming to tell you how damaging the source code in the wrong hands would be. Save to say that it would allow you a in-depth look at the vulnerabilities that a game or that a program might possess so that you could essentially trick it. For example, most games that we see have always online DRM checks where they basically ping a server to make sure that they're still,
Right,
this
right,
game's
right.
still good. If you
Right.
can trick a game into pinging a different server and using that as a sort of through channel to inject malicious code onto people's computers,
Oh,
by that,
okay.
there's a way that I could definitely see it being an issue. Give me a few hours and I might come up with some more. But our people who in the chat who are more. Kane says the source code is the bottom level code, bare and naked. Ishmobile says, "Oh, I said it well. You could port it to anything. You could change it and re-release it. You could also look for vulnerabilities, bugs. Sweet, Ishmobile, we're sharing a brain today." Let's see. Galvatron says one way to abuse source code is anyone can use the assets and engine of a game to make their own thing, and it would be a huge pain for CD Projekt Red to chase down any plagiarists. Interesting. Yeah.
Gotcha. And Moocher, did you read Moocher's comment? He says it's interesting that they've taken the same stance as terrorist threats. We will not negotiate with bad actors. War never changes, he says. Yeah, I mean, because honestly, this is one of those things where if they do give in, it totally sets a precedent where any studio that gets their stuff hacked would be in this position. And so
Well,
I'm glad that they're not giving in, but at the same time, I, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm glad they're not giving in. That's the bottom line.
sure. To be fair, plenty of studios have certainly caved to demands. I'm sure we just haven't heard of it. Ransomware is a big thing, and it's effective for reasons. Now, I will say, to the claim that they're like, oh, we've got the source code of the game and your last 3 big games, and you know what else? We've also got these incriminating HR documents that we're going to release. I'm reminded of a email scam that was going on a while back where it was basically just an empty threat where someone was like, "Oh, hey, I've got video of you doing incriminating things whilst on your computer. I will forward this message on. I'll forward the evidence to everybody in your book unless you send me bitcoins." So, I mean, it's one of those where
Well,
sometimes when people reach too far and they're just like, "Oh, I've got all this," I feel like maybe they don't. In fact,
well, in this situation, like CD Projekt Red said, we discovered we have been the victim of a targeted cyber attack, due to which some of our internal systems have been compromised. So,
oh, okay.
and it says the unidentified actor gained unauthorized access to our internal network collected certain data. So the data was indeed collected in this situation.
Sure. Sure, I
So
suppose.
it's not like a fake, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I was thinking that the incriminating HR documents might have been a little bit overselling it. It's just like, did they really get incriminating HR documents? I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, sure. It
who knows?
seems an interesting thing to tack on there, but who knows? Maybe it's super incriminating.
It could
Mwahaha.
be. Well, first and foremost, don't do stuff like this. It's not cool. And I mean, like, I have to make the joke, like, they have the source code for Cyberpunk. Are they just gonna like fix it and then release the game? You know what I mean? Like,
Uh huh.
I don't know what damage they're really gonna do, other than potentially what you said, which is, putting some type of malware or virus on everyone's computer who runs the game, which would be absolutely catastrophic, and could be the end of the company in my mind if something like that was to happen. So, I don't really have much more to say about this, but do we have any more comments in the chat?
I will. We will end on this one from Galvatron. Overhyping is part of gaming. Even the hackers and blackmailers do it.
Nice. That has been our topic of the week.
All right. Well, we turn now to a crowdfunding project that's trying to get off the ground. You know the rules here. We call this Kick or Kick Start. I'm going to post a link in the chat to a crowdfunding project. We will talk about some of the virtues, some of the vices, and at the end, we will give our determination whether or not we think it should be kicked out of here or whether we think it should be kick-started. And we encourage you who are here with us live to let us know what you think. This is called Dungeon Alchemist, and I am sure at a glance you can see why I would be interested. For starters, it already blew through its $54,000 goal in 3 hours. If the thing there on front is to be believed, which I do, they still have 29 days to go. They're at $115,000. And what this is it is an AI-powered map-making tool for those nerds of us who like to make maps for tabletop RPGs on occasion. You go with a theme, you draw basically how you want things to go, what type of a room you want, and the AI is going to populate it with with art and assets that seem to work. You'll be able to view it in different styles, whether straight up and down, isometric, or oh gosh, what's the other one that they talk about? Orthographic. That's the other one. And then when you're done with it and you've built your masterpiece, as they say, you can print it off from a printer. Presumably, you can also export it as some form of an image or import it to your favorite virtual tabletop software. So whether you're doing Tabletop Simulator or something like Roll20 that we've used before.
Whoa.
Oh.
You can import it to other softwares?
Yeah, after your map's complete, you can throw it on into stuff like Roll20, which would be useful. Now, let's get down to what they're asking. For this program, it'll be a standalone program distributed via Steam, so for release in PC and anything else that gets Steam on it. $37 to buy a lifetime license for Dungeon Alchemist. They're looking at release for the finished product at the end of 2021. If you're interested in dropping $55 to get beta access to it, they're saying you'll get that at the end of Q3, beginning of Q4 of 2021. Again, export your maps with your choices of various things to other services and the like. So, Mr. Nice Guy, any thoughts, feelings, impressions?
You know what? I mean, I don't have a ton to say other than that this looks great. I'm more and more impressed by the fact that it can be used in conjunction with other pre-existing programs like Roll20.
Now, Metzgirl, who actually pointed us in the direction of this crowdfunding, this Kickstarter, said they have full integration with Foundry Virtual Tabletop. I've not used Foundry VTT before, but that does seem cool. So yeah, I am going to echo the sentiments of Ishmobile and Kane in hexes. I haven't seen any hexes in use, and I much prefer the combat, the tacticality that comes from hexes as opposed to squares in tabletop. I suppose you can't have it all. After all, where would you put it? But I'm cautiously optimistic. At the current moment, they've got stretch goals up, right? And they've unlocked a bunch of the ones that are already up, but there are plenty of more to come. And these seem like more themes. I would like to believe that hexes would be a part of their
I
stretch
think
goals.
I think Mets Girl just answered that question, Mac.
Oh,
If you see,
let's see. Will you be able to max with custom grid sizes? Absolutely. Our print sizes are convenient print, but if you want to use our maps, the sky's the limit of the size. Well, in reality, maybe the speed of your computer will be the limit from their FAQ.
so that leads me to believe that they could do hexes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of grid size. Well, that does say in terms of grid size. It doesn't say... Yeah, custom grid sizes, but I don't see anything there about being able to print with hex grids. But large sizes or different sizes. So I'm still not sure. I think it looks good, I will say. But yeah. Now this is the first effort by these guys, their first Kickstarter. That always makes me a little bit concerned, but it looks like if they've got the wherewithal to put together something like this, if they've got the coding knowledge and experience, they certainly have made the money that they need to make it happen. That's for darn sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so anyway, I've talked long enough about it. Anything you want to say, Mr. Nice Guy?
No, the only thing I was disappointed about is at first I thought it was going to be like a physical, like I don't know if you ever played that game that I have, HeroScape. I don't know if you ever played it with me. I
I
don't think we
haven't
ever
played
played
it
it together.
with you, but we've wanted to for ages.
Well, dude, here's the thing, man. Like my kids, they stepped on a bunch of the pieces, and
No.
yeah, like the environments, and they don't really make that game anymore. And so
You've got Tabletop Simulator, right?
I do, but it's not the same.
I know,
You know
it's
what I
not
mean?
quite
Like
the same. We could merely scratch an itch. But you know what? I've got a 3D printer, man.
that's true.
Let's
Yeah.
let's
And
print some of this.
honestly, that was going to be my next question about this because this looks dope. Is it possible to create an environment? You said you can print it, but can you 3D print it?
So
Because
here,
that would be amazing.
as long as an export of the files can happen, right? Oh, nope. Actual answer, nope. Square grid only due to technical constraints. And you cannot 3D print. So, very sad face here. What I was going to say was that if you can get a 3D model from something, but it's not the immediate roadmap. It really depends
Dang,
on
she's
how well the
answering all the
Kickstarter is.
questions.
She has the
Good job.
advantage
Good job, Mets Girl.
thank you, Mets Girl. I appreciate it. But yeah, so maybe 3D printing if the Kickstarter does well enough, but all you really need is the 3-dimensional files. And to be fair, anything that if there is something that displays in 3 dimensions on your screen, presumably, as long as it's not forced perspective 3D, Mets Girl's in the Discord, woo woo! But as long as it's not forced 3D and it's actually some sort of 3-dimensional thing with presumably, I guess, whatever the equivalent of collision detection is, that you would be able to convert that into a type of 3D model that could be printed, presumably. But I mean, then again, I am neither an expert in 3D printing, nor am I an expert in programming, so... Anyway, I think, though, we know enough about this to give our things. Mr. Nice Guy. And those of you who are here with us live, remember, let us know in the chat, kickstart or kick it out of here, and tell us why. Mr. Nice Guy, what are your thoughts?
I mean, to me, this is a no-brainer. Like the only thing that I really, because it sounds like they've thought of every question, right? They've thought of, can you 3D print stuff? Because obviously that's something that people would want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've thought of, can you do hexes? The answer is no, but at least they know, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've thought of everything everyone could ask for. The only thing that I am disappointed in is that this is a year away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to me, this is the type of thing that you want to have ready to go now. Like we're still in a pandemic, right? People are at home. People really have a lot more time for this. Get it out as soon as possible. That said, don't rush it. So I respect that it's going to be a year. I have no complaints about this, and I think it's going to be really dope.
So,
And my one question, maybe
mhm.
Metscroll knows, to use this, does everyone have to have access to this program? Or
Well,
could the DM just make the environment and then export it for everyone to see?
that's the one. The DM would have it, and then they would export it, and you're done. And that's what you need.
Oh,
And so long as you could print it without the square grid, you could overlay a hex grid. As a matter of fact, I do that quite frequently with with maps. People design them with with D&D in mind, and I'll like get the map but without the grid, and then I'll just throw a hex grid on in the appropriate size, and Bob's your uncle, it's done.
yeah.
So yeah.
So like when we went to that card shop that one time, and
Mhm.
the DM, no disrespect, he had prepared, but he was like using marker and like drawing out the environment, right? He could have done that at home with this in advance, right? I'm
Yeah.
just saying that's what this does. It makes it easier.
Yeah, yeah. And so I have to say, I say kickstart on this. I'm a little disappointed
Yeah.
in the lack of hex grid, but I understand what they're talking about. Technical constraints. We want the AI to be able to draw this. Confusing the AI with buildings that don't neatly line up with the squares, with buildings that leave these partial areas that maybe it prioritizes. I could see that being an enormous headache for trying to design computer to populate something. So I understand, but just so long as I've got a way without too many additional steps to add on a hex grid, I think it's a dream come true and a kickstart. And I would love to see a playable demo, but then again, this isn't a video game. This is utility. And I think I can suspend my disbelief for a little bit on this one. I say kickstart, and and I look forward to this project. And overwhelmingly, it has been kickstart from those who are here with us. Dungeon Alchemist. I mean, I think you've knocked it out of the park. I'm looking forward to it. I will say I'm a little sad that the price is that much, but I mean, I think I can afford it. I think it'd be good. Yeah. I'm kickstarting. It's going to be great.
Yeah. I think it's great. Are you kickstarting it with your personal funds? Is that what you said, or did I
Probably.
misunderstand?
Probably. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, you're a DM, you're a GM.
Yeah.
It's for you. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll move on to Nerd Flex.
Woo.
A segment where you, the viewers, try to stump the hosts, and you do sometimes. If you have
Yes.
questions, get those in the chat right now. Mac, we still got some of those out there, those sound tests. I know we had one
Yes.
last episode, number 175, right?
Yes, indeed. 175 is still available for finding. I don't have the list in front of me right now, but if you are a part of the Discord, Mr. Nice Guy 425's Treehouse, that there is a sticky with a current upstate, or a current number of the sound tests that are available. You answer those correctly, that is, identify which video game the mystery sound comes from, and you might win yourself a pin, a Two Nerds in a Pod acrylic pin from us.
That
So
is right.
looks like we've got our first one.
Cool. So, first one comes from Mets Girl. There are 7 tools in the starter equipment of Phasmophobia. 3 of the following do not belong. Name them. Oh, wow. All right. Number 1, Spirit Box. Number 2, Ghostwriting Book. Number 3, Plasma Detector. Number 4, Photo Camera. Number 5, EMF Reader. Number 6, Electro Barrier. Number 7, Video Camera. Number 7, UV Flashlight. Number 9, ALDFG, aka Ghost Gear, and number 10 Flashlight.
And Punicorns. So we know that Punicorns is one of the ones that doesn't belong in the starting gear. JK, what we're actually talking about is this comes to us via Metzgirl, but it's from Punicorns.
Oh, it's from Punicorns. Okay.
Yeah. So
Ooh, this is tough.
Yeah, because I've never played Phasmophobia, but just judging by knowing that that of these 10 items, 7 of them are actually there, a part of it, that tells me this is a ghost hunting game. I feel like the Spirit Box sounds like something that you would get later. I feel like a game where you're ghost hunting, you wouldn't be able to trap them off the bat. Like, it sounds to me kind of like a horror game, which makes me think that the EMF
It is.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It is a horror game.
Which makes me think the EMF reader, definitely a part of the starting gear. The electro barrier, I'm feeling no. And
I would say Flashlight is probably
starting
in a horror game. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe the ALDFG, because for me, the Spirit Box and the Electro Barrier both sound like they're defenses. And I feel like in a hoarder game, you want to start someone without any defenses against the monsters, really give that suspension. And Electro Barrier sounds like a defense, which makes me think no. ALDFG, the Ghost Gear.
That just sounds like something that you get late in the game just because it has a cool name.
Yeah,
you know
right?
what I mean?
Yeah, so I would say Spirit Box, Electro Barrier, and ALDFG, because everything else, video camera, photo camera, UV flashlight, ghost writing book, plasma detector, those mostly all sound like stuff to show you how real the horror is, but not to help you deal with it, which is why.
Yeah. So which 3 are we going with? Number 9,
say
ALDFG. Go ahead. Mac. What do you
1, 6, and 9 are
okay, so Spirit Box, Electro Barrier, and ALDFG. I'm gonna go with that too. Final answer. Let us know in the chat, Metzgirl.
3, 6, and 9 is the correct answer, which means Plasma Detector, Electro Barrier, and ALDFG.
Dude, we got 2 of the 3.
For us having never played and me having never seen the game, dude, I feel really good. I kind of want to count that one as a win, but we got 2 out of 3, so I feel really good.
Dude, that's good. We won't count it as right because we were wrong.
Yeah,
but Ishmobile says he got it, but we'll have to take his word for it. Nice.
Sounds like a plan.
Cool. Well, Galvatron has a question in the chat. This is a good question.
Yeah.
There are 4 Tom Clancy-related game franchises that Ubisoft makes. Name them. Hint, we mentioned one of them earlier. And I think we can do this, Mac, if we talk our way through it.
Okay.
So, obviously, Splinter Cell is a Tom Clancy, right?
Is Rainbow Six a Tom Clancy?
Yeah, it sure is. Rainbow Six.
Let's see.
Let's just name Ubisoft games. So we got Rainbow Six. We got Ghost Recon. I believe is Tom Clancy, right?
Okay, sure, yeah.
Man, what's the 4th?
Ooh, we're so close. Let's see. What other games do we have by Ubisoft? We've got Prince of Persia was by Ubisoft.
I feel like,
but that's definitely not Tom Clancy.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed is not. Either is The Division. Or was Tom Clancy's?
Really? Tom Clancy's The Division, you think?
I don't think it is.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
pretty sure it's not. I feel like there's like a plain one or something. I can't. I'm not sure though. One last one. He says, "Yeah, please, nobody spoil this in the chat because if we get this, we want to legit get it."
Yeah.
Dang it! I don't think we're gonna get it, man. I can't think of the 4th one.
Yeah.
There's like Rainbow Six Vegas and stuff, but that's still under the Rainbow Six umbrella.
Yeah. I mean, so one of the things, Splinter Cell, Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six, these are all games that are very high action. Oh, I got it. The 4th is The Division.
We got it,
dude. I am so happy right now,
dude.
What
we got
even
it,
is life? Okay, this is great.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
That's Okay. I'm feeling great. Feeling on top of the world as we go into Spenis's question, which is in Pokemon Red and Blue, there are 5 HMs, each containing certain moves in the game that are important for moving in the game, for progressing in the game, I think. Name all 5. All right. We've got
Okay.
Cut. We have Fly. We have Surf. We have Strength, I seem to recall. And that was a move. So let's see.
Isn't there like a Pounce one or something, or am I completely off?
So I forget what HM stands for, but but TM stand for training machine. And so HMs were reusable items that you could teach any.
Oh,
Flash. Flash was the 5th. So you needed Cut to cut down trees so that you could move forward. You needed Flash so that you could see inside of the darkness areas. You needed Surf so you could get across the water. Fly so that you could fly to areas. And Strength so that you could push boulders.
wow. Mac
Uh,
is the man.
I
Take that, Spinnis.
Spenis,
Coming
thanks
with
for the
these-
great question.
Ridiculously tough questions about Pokemon every single week.
Yeah.
Spinnis is a good friend.
We will wait to hear just in case I ruined something. But I'm pretty sure that we got it correct.
Every- I'm pretty sure you did too, man.
I know, and we can cut the awkward silence out of post, but I mean, like, I just want confirmation.
We're waiting for it. Spinnis.
Cut, Fly, Surf, Strength, and Flash. HM stands for Hidden Machine. As later games came along, there were many new HMs that were added or even changed around. Since Sun/Moon, HMs have been discontinued. Woo woo! And thanks, Rolf, for the trophy. It says you did okay. Yay! So, if we count the first question as a right, we clean swept in the affirmative. If we count the first question as not, then we still got 2 out of 3, and it's pretty awesome. So, let's move on now to a little thing that we call legalese.
Legally.
This is going to be a short one, fair warning, but it is an update. You may recall that back in episode 130, we discussed the Booker T, he's a wrestler, you see, lawsuit. That's how I remember who he is. It's the rhyme. We discussed his lawsuit with Activision with respect to his character of G.I. Bro and their use of a very similar looking character known as David Prophet Wilkes, and how he contended that copyright infringement was happening. Turns out we're going to hear more about this case. There's going to be discovery, there's going to be documents, there's going to be motions to dismiss and motions to move venues. It's going to be fantastic, and I'll bring you all the excitement because it's going to trial. Woo woo! So, for those of you who haven't, who haven't heard about it, I gave you basically the short version there. If you want to hear some more, we covered it more in depth in episode 130, and we will most certainly be coming back to this in the future because I think it is worth our time as this is a worthwhile lawsuit to get to the bottom of just how much, just where that line is with respect to what is Booker T's character and what is Activision's character. So I'm looking forward to it, and in the process, I might learn a little something about wrestling. So no promises, no promises. So
Do you consider wrestling a sport? Random question.
I choose not to answer that question on the grounds that it may tend to incriminate me.
Okay, fair enough.
Excellent. So, that's been our show, everybody. But we like to finish off with a segment called What We've Been Watching and What We've Been Playing, where we do exactly that. Let's talk, all of us. Let's share in the chat. Let's talk about the nerdy things that we're into because, well, nothing is better than a recommendation from friends when you need something to check out. And Mr. Nice Guy, I would like to start off by saying that I have been watching Stargate SG-1. I have been writing some fiction. I've also been watching Schitt's Creek. Love that show. And And as for playing, I've been playing some Chasm. I've also played a little bit more of Cyber Shadow and some more Morrowind on my original Xbox. Uh,
Nice.
yeah. What about you?
Dude, did you say you've been writing fiction?
Yes.
When do we get to read this fiction?
Probably never.
I knew it. I knew it, Mac. Come on, man. You can't be embarrassed about your creation.
Well, no, to be fair, like I write fiction every time we start to play a tabletop role-playing game. I write my notes, I figure out the some of the story at least. And yeah, and that's fiction that, is just for friends eyes only. But yeah.
I thought we were friends. Yeah, last week you said we were besties, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Yep," and I didn't say it like enthusiastically enough.
Yeah.
So now I don't get to read your
I
fiction.
I remember I
We
was
are
there.
besties. No, we are besties, and I feel like I should get eyes on this fiction.
Okay, you know what? If you want it that bad, I will let you inside the inner sanctum, the inner circle, but just you, Mr. Nice Guy.
I will not share it with anyone else. I will not incriminate you like your CD Project Red and be like, "I have Max Fiction. I have the source code,
He's
and I'm going to
probably
share it with everybody."
yeah, yeah.
I would not do that.
I believe you.
Well, anyway, as far as what I've been watching and what I have been playing, Mac, I discovered this awesome show. Credit to my brother. It's called Lupin, and it is amazing. It's about a guy who is a thief. It was originally filmed in French, but it has really solid American voice acting over it. And it's basically like, I'm trying to think how to describe it. Like, to compare it to Ocean's 11 would be a disservice. It's a really brilliant show about this guy who, like, I almost don't even want to talk about it because I just want people to watch it, like watch one episode and then be like, "Okay, nice guy. I'm glad that you had me watch this show."
Well, why don't
Um,
we just leave it at that then?
let's
Your
leave it at that.
enthusiastic recommendation is noted, sir.
And here's the thing: there's only 5 episodes, one season on Netflix. So my brother was like, "Dude, you got to watch it. You got to watch it." I was like, "Fine." So I watched one episode, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is brilliant." I like the storytelling technique where they don't do flashbacks, but they show how a character got where they are,
Mm-hmm.
and then it shows where they are, and then it goes back and explains how they did certain things once again. Like that skipping between time is just really, really brilliant to me. And the acting was solid. The characters are engaging. I'm excited to finish it. Uh, also been watching WandaVision, and I don't think I watched any movies this week. That's pretty much it. I'm still watching that show that Mac probably thinks is lame. World. I'm relearning those lessons I learned as a kid about how you shouldn't cheat on tests, about how you should always be honest with your significant other. Those cheesy after school lessons. I'm learning them again. And that's it. As far as playing, I've really, really been getting deep into Ghost of Tsushima again and having a blast with it. That's been my go-to Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and that is it for me. Mac, what are people into in the chat?
I'll take watching. Rolf is watching Game of Thrones and a bit of Fry and Laurie. Love it. It's a great variety show. Let's see. AR Wilson is watching sports shows, YouTube videos, and streams. Very not specific, but very appreciated
He's
nonetheless.
in every single one of my streams. He's the real MVP.
Oh, AR Wilson. You're the MVP. Mets Girl is watching WandaVision, Doctor Who, The Owl House, Gravity Falls, and Age of Ultron.
Nice.
Ishmobile is watching Mystery Science Theater 3000, the first 3 episodes, Mac and Me, Atlantic Rim, and Lords of the Deep, Stargate SG-1, Woo Woo, Stranger Things, Shameless, and Outlander.
Nice.
And let's see, I think and Galvatron's watching Soul on Disney Plus, Spies in Disguise, and The Emperor's New Groove, vastly underrated. Heck yes, we can hold hands and sing Kumbaya on that one.
Nice.
What are people playing, Mr. Nice Guy?
Well, Ralph is playing Path of Exile and Slay the Spire, which I've heard Path of Exile is a lot of fun. Metzgirl played GoldenEye this week. Llama Game, Doctor Who Flux, Trogdor, GURPS, and Earthbound. Earthbound, classic game. Who else we got in here playing stuff? We got Galvatron playing Insurgency Sandstorm. I got to get back into that with you, Ishmobile. Ocarina of Time, Euro Truck Simulator 2 / American Truck Simulator.
Mm-hmm.
Kane is playing Pathfinder and RimWorld. And GURPS for Ishmobile as well. Sorry, I'm scrolling through trying to see. Oh, and Galvatron is playing Fury Unleashed, an incredible roguelite. Metal Slug. Ooh, that sounds fun. I'm gonna Google that later. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, great game. Persona 5 Royale, Gears Tactics, and Dragon Ball Fighter Z. Mac, why don't you take us home, my friend?
Okay, thanks everyone for being here, for being a part of the show. You are the best. The best viewers on Twitch, the best listeners on whatever podcast platform this is coming to your ear holes via. And just above all, you're the best people. We love you. You're great. Thank you for supporting us, being here for the show, either live or after the fact. It means a lot, and you mean a lot, and you're awesome. Be excellent to each other, and keep it nerdy.
Bye.
Bye.